Today, we are winding back the clocks a couple of years to take a look at this device right here. This is the Pixel 4a 5G. This is one of my all-time favorite budget Pixel phones, and it really does pack a punch in terms of the usability as well as the camera, and some of the features you get in here are equivalent to that of a flagship. So let's go ahead and take a look at whether this device is still worth it in 2022. So in terms of the hardware, it definitely doesn't stand up to all the smartphones coming out this year or even last year. It's a plastic unibody design, super scratchy, super lightweight, super slippy. It's not very nice. It doesn't really feel good in the hands, so I would advise you slap a case onto this thing. But something which is a little bit more retro, some people still like it, is this fingerprint scanner on the back here. So it's pretty easy to access. I find when I pull my phone out of my pocket, my finger kind of naturally sits on that point. So it tends to unlock straight away. I don't really mind it not being in the screen. Sometimes it can have some problems, like it can be a little bit slower if it's in the screen. So for me, I don't really mind it being on the back of the device there. And then on the side here, you have this really nice accented power button. That is sort of a signature of the Pixel. But other than that, on the back here, you have this camera right here, which is a small camera bump by any means for 2022 cameras. There's only two cameras in here. So there's a wide angle and a standard. So you're getting 12 megapixel standard, 16 megapixel wide, and they are amazing cameras. I can tell you, they definitely do stack up even to cameras coming out in 2022, and I'm talking flagship cameras. Google's computational photography is unbelievable, and with every update they do to this budget device, the camera gets a little bit better each and every time. So even though they don't have the hardware, it still does pack a punch in terms of the quality you're gonna get out of this thing. Now, one area it kind of does suck at is video. It does look quite over sharpened, and it's definitely not the most pleasing thing to look at. You're just getting pretty standard results. In terms of the screen, you are getting an OLED 1080 by 2340 panel. Pretty good resolution, pretty good viewing angles. It's not like the brightest thing in the world. If you're outside and there is very bright sunlight, you are gonna get a lot of glare. It might be a little bit dim to try and see the screen, but I can honestly say I don't mind the 60 Hertz. A lot of devices coming out now do have 120, so it might be something that you want to consider in terms of, whether that's the sacrifice you're willing to make. I recently did a video of a $250 Poco phone. That was the Poco X4 Pro. And that thing had a peak brightness of 1200 nits and a refresh rate of 120 Hertz, which is kind of impressive for that price point. So considering there is phones out now with better hardware, I would still recommend this Pixel 4a 5G, and the reason for that is because of the updates. You're obviously going to get the Google Pixel experience on here. You're going to get future updates, so it's pretty much future-proofed, whereas other budget phones are more likely to not get updates, and the Poco phone is actually still rocking Android 11, whereas I'm rocking Android 13 Tiramisu on this device right here. So yeah, if you want the best of the best in terms of software updates, the Pixel is completely the king of that. Inside of this guy, you're getting the Snapdragon 765G. It definitely doesn't really hold up in terms of processing power if you're directly comparing it to the ones coming out this year or even last year. Even at the time, this thing wasn't the best of the best. So in terms of how it performs, I can say it's definitely nice. It's fluid. It doesn't really have any lag or stutter. Now, I don't really game too much, so if you're using super powerful games or applications, it might not be able to cope with that. But just from general social media use, watching content like Netflix, YouTube, listening to my music, I've had no issue with this device whatsoever. Even with the beta right here on Android 13, it's a very fluid, pleasant experience, I can honestly say. And paired with that is 6 gigabytes of RAM. Again, I haven't really had any issue of apps closing in the background. Google is very good with their software optimization. So in terms of usability, the experience has honestly been great. And I love all those little Google features. One of my favorite features is on the always on display. It's going to show you at the bottom the music playing in the room. So even if the music's not coming from your device, it's going to listen using the microphones, and it's going to tell you what song is playing in the environment around you. This is handy because if you're in like a store and some music's playing, or you're in the club or you're in a bar and you like a song, it can be so frustrating if you don't know what the song is. And just being able to look at the always on display and figure that out is kind of crazy. In terms of the battery inside of this guy, you are getting a 3,885 milliamp hour battery pack. That's actually a pretty decent but average size, but you are getting exceptionally good battery life because Google is very good at optimizing their phones, and this has a very low powered chip inside. So because it's an old Snapdragon chip, It doesn't use quite as much power as the newer chips, and of course you're only getting 60 Hz in terms of your screen refresh rate, so battery life is actually pretty decent. In terms of the speakers, you're getting stereo speakers, so you're getting one up here at the earpiece and then one down-firing one. These are pretty good, very loud, very clear. It does kind of peak a little bit if you have the volume at the complete maximum, and they're not the bassiest, so that's something you might want to consider. But they're honestly not too bad, and you do still have a headphone jack, so if you want to plug in some headphones, then you are still good to go. So yeah, even in 2022, I'm still impressed with the Pixel 4a 5G. There is actually a newer version out for the US and Japan, which is the Pixel 5a 5G. But yeah, if you want a stock experience without too much bloatware, that's got the best of the best, the latest software updates, and a very pleasant experience in terms of using the device, then the Pixel 4a 5G is definitely still worth it in 2022. I can confirm that it's still a great device. So yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you later. Peace.